Welcome back to Sperdunky and Friends, the Indie Game Devs podcast. I'm Sperdunky. My screen is jittering like crazy. I don't know why. But I'm here today with my co-host, Mike, or Cybernetic Druid, who's typing away.
Yeah, I'm Mike. I'm the guy typing. So I'm a coder. Been working on lots of different stuff for about 10 years. And we're here with John from Blondie Wales Games. You want to introduce yourself, John?
Sure. I'm John Paul. I'm the founder and team lead for Blondie Wales Games. I've been trained as more of a generalist as far as game development goes, so I do a little bit of everything, but my primary role is to make the general game design and game feel program and oversee everyone else's operations kind of deal.
Hi, I'm Dakota Beck. I am part of the team of Blondie Wales. I'm one of the founding members here. I recently graduated from Butler Community College, actually with John here. I mostly do more of the 3D modeling, animating, and really all little details of stuff that need to be done. So I'm here for a good time, not for a long time.
Awesome. And thank you guys for coming on again. I also want to say about Booze Basher. Is that what it's called? Boozer Basher?
Yes.
I keep wanting to call it Boozer Basher. But let's start with what you guys did for that project. And as my understanding is, it's like a college project. So is that a part of like your final project, or was it just something a bunch of you guys got together and worked on it, or?
Yeah, so Booze Basher was our final project for college, capstone. Some places it's called a, what do they call them? I was just calling capstones. Practicum. Practicum is the name. So it was kind of the final project for our associate degrees, and we had a small team of about 20 people, split pretty evenly between the web design side that built the website for that game and did some of the graphic design and loading screen art, and then we had the game design team that did more of the character modeling, weapon modeling, animations, textures, all that good stuff. As for my role on the project, my role on the project was primarily to be the primary coder and game designer, though I did float around and help out and do a little bit of touch-up with a couple of different things, mostly sound and level design in a few spaces. And as for Dakota here, he actually is responsible for all of the character models in Booze Basher, so all the enemies, all the bosses, and even a little bit of voice acting in a little secret area there.
As he said, I was in charge of the enemies and stuff like that. For what I did, I made a little template for how all the enemies would look, and I went off of that template. Then I made an atlas to then take from that, and then just be able to just throw some textures on. These characters are very, very low poly, very, very cartoonish, very, very. I'm proud of them. They look good, and I had fun making them. So that's kind of the big gist of it.
We were definitely going for like a PlayStation 1 era polygonal cartoony vibe for it as far as aesthetics, with the gameplay of like Doom or Quake. So it's a lot of high speed, high octane first person shooter action.
I think that's a good scope though for college, like a project like that. You don't want it to go crazy just trying to make it this AAA game. You're never going to get there. you know, keep it small and keep it manageable for the time you have, and you know, I played it.
Yeah, with
I had fun with it.
with
And,
15 weeks and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
with
officially
15 weeks
the.
of development time
Oh wow.
and negative $27 budget, I think we came out all right with it.
It's officially
Oh
the
yeah.
first game me and my toddler played together.
Okay, right on.
I mean, he didn't understand what he was doing, but I was showing him to press the buttons. He'd either be staring at the keyboard and pressing the buttons, or just staring at the screen.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes it's the best way to do things. Just go in and just play the game. You don't really don't know how to play it, don't really need to know how to play. You just go in and just have fun with it.
Yeah.
That's kind of
So,
what we were going for.
so before this game, what is your guys' experience? Like, have you been making games for a while and then decided to go to school for it, or were you going to school and you're like, hey, let's make games?
John?
Well, you know, I actually hadn't started making games until I had gone to college. I've always, you know, I've been a lifelong gamer. I've always loved video games. Uh, my original career, um, hopeful career trajectory was to be a musician, actually. I'm a bass guitarist. I also am a vocalist, rhythm and lead guitar, a little bit of drums and harmonica, uh, all self-taught. Uh, but you know, I've always loved storytelling. I've always loved, you know, designing games and kind of setting up different private servers or clans and stuff on games to kind of change the way the game plays and kind of make up our own stories. And I've always been really interested in that. So, you know, I kind of figured, all right, well, why don't I just make games? Because it's, you know, this perfect conglomeration of all of my favorite hobbies. You know, it's filmmaking, it's music, it's writing, it's art, and it's personally, I think video games are the greatest art medium because it's this really awesome crossroads of all the other art mediums in a really interactive way. So that really stood out and appealed to me. So prior to about 3 years ago, I had never I had never done any game design stuff at all. Uh, didn't write my first line of code until I took a C++ class my first semester of college.
Oh wow.
For me, it was more. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
For me, it was more of more. I wanted to do animated movies and do more kind of animated stuff. I've always had kind of a big passion for that. When I was younger, I'd always try to do some stop motion stuff. I had a few stop motion animations that I had that I have no idea where they go. No idea where they are now. Um, that was originally what I thought I was going into, was just more animation and modeling. But when I had gone more into it, I found out there was more a game aspect to it, more video game aspect to it, and um, it drove me into it. I loved the whole video game aspect of it because there's the difference between uh, the direction of going from animations, animating TV shows and stuff like that, to making assets for games, because you got to make them two different ways, and I enjoy more the game aspect of it because it's more interactive. You get to see more of what you've done in an actual world. It's bringing your stuff to life, and that's just something I've always had kind of fun in. I've always been big on video games too. Um, you know, I had a Game Boy when I was younger. I played some of the Mario World games. I played, you know, and I still play a lot of the Xbox stuff. So I've always been really really big and on games and stuff like that. So I've always just had a passion to just create. So either it being TV or video games, it's always
Hmm.
just been kind of a good passion for me.
Yeah. I actually I used to think I was gonna be a movie director, and a lot of the stories and stuff that I would come up with, which some of that is like integrated to my ideas for games. Um, but um, the thing I love about Unity, I don't know, is this game made in Unity?
Booze Basher is made in Unity,
Booth
yes.
Basher is,
Okay,
yes.
I figured, but I love the animator in Unity, and I'm planning on doing some purely animations using Unity. But
Cool.
I've always found Unity's animator to be a bit confusing.
Oh,
I've
really?
always preferred, yeah. I've
So
always found.
what do you prefer? What do you prefer then?
When I was making the characters for Booze Basher, I was using 3ds Max.
Oh, okay.
3ds Max was kind of what I started out with and kind of what I got comfortable with. So that's just kind of what I used, but I wasn't really one doing a lot of the animations. What we used for Booze Basher was an Adobe website called Mixamo.
Oh,
We got a lot of the animations from those, and we had another really cool animator. I don't know if he wants us to use his name, but he made a lot of the animations for the bosses and stuff like that. And he made the throwing animations for the dynamite guy. He made some of the animations for the Gatling one.
mhm.
So
Yeah, who brutally
uh,
destroyed me, by the way.
yeah,
That first boss, man. I'd made it there by hiding in the stairwell, and when you start on that boss, and he just that barrage of bullets. It's like, oh, okay. I've been playing it wrong the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I was playing with my
Let me tell
son.
you.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, let me tell you, Booze Basher went through the night before it debuted. It went through probably 9 different builds.
Oh yeah.
We set it up to be really modular so that we could change a lot of things really fast and iterate really fast.
Good idea.
But we ended up going through, I think, yeah, like 9 different builds between Dakota and I and one of the other members of our team who's currently focusing on our level design aspects. And so we just stayed up all night long working on these different builds, and I would go through and, like, originally the player spawned behind a stack of boxes on the Gatling gun boss. Um, but we kept, when we were playtesting it, we kept cheesing it and just kind of peeking around the corner and then shooting him and then just going right back in the box, so it didn't strike us as having enough danger to it. And so we ended up just removing the boxes and said, all right, well, now you got to run as soon as it starts.
Well, as
Uh,
far as like school projects goes, like you guys knocked it out of the park. Like
yeah,
compared to a lot of like anything I did in school, or like
yeah. Well, the
you guys
thing
got
with
it.
that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it.
Well, the thing with us is one of our teachers said that it was one of the, well, what did he say? He said it was one of the best projects he'd seen in a long time. He
Mm-hmm.
said that our progress halfway, when we were just halfway done with it, is about what other people's would be by the end of their capstone.
Yeah, I believe that.
So that gave us a lot of, at least it gave me a lot of
Yeah, it's
pride
also,
in it.
you can say, like, look, here's a game I made. Whereas, like,
Yeah,
Very
that's
much so.
huge. Yeah.
like for me, like, I'm self-taught.
my
I didn't go to
professor-
school. And I've just been kind of dinking around forever. But so
my
technically,
professor actually ended up being the basis of the dynamite guy.
Mhm.
oh,
Uh,
I only made it to the
all of
first boss. How many bosses are there?
two.
There's just 2.
Oh, okay.
There's 2 bosses, but you do the first 5 levels and then you get the first boss, then the second 5 levels, then you get the second boss, and then after you beat the second boss, you go through and do a harder version of both bosses back to back to back. So you end up finishing the game out in a 3 boss run,
Mm.
and the final boss, he chases you around this cave, this, like, mine shaft cave, and chucks dynamite at you, and he's, just right up on you, just chucking dynamite, and if you're not careful, he'll kill you in one blast if you're right up there when he does what we call the shotgun dynamite, where he throws out like 5 bundles of dynamite right at once.
Oh yeah.
And we had a lot of fun with that, putting the physics and the force interactions with the dynamite explosions, so you're just getting blown all over the place with it. We had a ton of fun with that.
Well, with with that one, I remember the guy who originally had coded the the excuse me, the dynamite boss was he was excited. He had gone and done so many different things that we did end up actually putting in the game.
Hmm.
Uh, he had originally that what like 4 or 5 attacks that he had going,
Yeah,
but
we
yeah,
we ended up having to cut because there were 4 or 5 attacks for both bosses originally, rather than the 2 or 3 that they ended up with. Um, but we had to cut them because he was also working on programming at the same time that I was, and we were kind of working independently on our programming. So the
Hmm.
way we had set up uh, our enemy controllers, he was using rigid bodies, I was using character controllers, and
Uh,
every other enemy in the game was using character controllers. Uh, and for parity's sake, uh, I ended up having to, plus a looming deadline, I ended up having to kind of rework his bosses a little bit, um, to bring them more into line with the functionality of the other enemies. Um, but the thing
yeah,
about
that's
Booze Basher, the version that we actually ended up releasing was our third rendition of it, uh, third or fourth. Um, we had completely scrapped all the progress we had done, started over 3 or 4 times throughout the semester. So the version that finally came out was, programming wise, built from the ground up in a little under a month. We used the Unity FPS micro game as a basis, but then we went through and changed a bunch of things, had to optimize a lot of the code, changed a lot of the gameplay mechanics, and utilizing scene management trickery.
mhm.
Um, I think the final project, there's 10 levels, there's 10 walk-ups to the level to get you kind of started and give you a little breather. And then there's the 4 boss levels. Um, but we ended up actually having, I think, 65 scenes in the game because of the way we did the loading screens. It
um,
actually is, the loading screens aren't actually loading screens, they're actually
It's just playing a
levels
scene.
where, yeah, it's
uh,
just playing a scene where the player character is already on the um, destination objective as he spawns, and the HUD's just disabled, and we just have picture frames of the loading screen images pushed right up on the camera,
oh, it works. It's
which,
smooth.
yeah, it came about because we had to rework the way we were doing the loading screens like 3 days before it came out.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just like, we'll just cheese it. We'll cheese it and we'll make it look good. It'll be all right.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and that's pretty
there's
typical
the
in
lesson.
like software in general. You know, when the deadline comes, you got to cut big chunks out that you thought you were going to push. And you know, most of my experience is more like enterprise stuff. But no matter what kind of project it is, there's always that last minute stuff and bugs and things you wanted to push.
Uh,
But
well,
for you
originally there,
guys, you had like you had to graduate, right? So,
yeah.
but oh,
Right.
I was going to ask, do you guys have the source available at all, or is that
Uh,
I
we actually have the
do
website.
think I do think I have the source files on a hard drive somewhere, because I loaded all my Unity stuff onto that hard drive. Um,
Well,
that was
it's
little
not able
five
to be a
terabyte
commercial
hard drive.
project though, right?
No,
No.
I
uh,
mean, it's your
most
source is your choice, right? So like we're not going to share all of our source. Yeah, but I was
yeah,
just
Yeah.
if it's a student project, sometimes you like to show the code if you're
Yeah.
trying to
yeah,
get a job.
Yeah.
yeah. It's one of those things that I would probably put out the source code for it, and put out the source files for it. At some point, I just have to find that hard drive. Um, Yeah, no, it wouldn't be a commercial project purely on the basis that uh, there were so many other people who worked on it for that capstone class that we didn't end up bringing into Blondie Wales Games. Currently, we're a team of 5, and the 4 founding members were all on that project. And then our
Okay.
5th member, our newest hire, is doing graphic design and concept art and splash art for loading screens and main menu and everything.
Cool.
So
And
here's a
she joined
question.
up a couple weeks ago.
So if you were gonna remake the game and you had a year to do it, what would you change about it, or how would you expand on it?
Well, we actually have talked about that. We talked about that quite a bit. One thing I know that we would do is we would make it in Unreal instead of in Unity. Um, and that's mostly by virtue of the fact that Epic has released so many awesome materials and models and prefabs and things through Quixel Megascans and stuff like that, and all the Unreal learning sources, that it would cut development time down significantly for that. I mean, we already have the general idea and basic gameplay put together, so it's something that we would definitely be able to do. Uh, the biggest changes we would probably make to it um, would probably be an aesthetic change to more of like a stylized, cell shaded, almost Wind Waker esque kind of thing. So a little smoother models rather than like PlayStation 1 models. Um, and we'd probably change the main game loop around to have the player rack up score from each level. They would survive a number of waves or survive a time limit against waves of enemies, and then they'd rack up score, and then they'd purchase upgrades like upgrades to health, upgrades to ammo capacity, buying different weapons, things like that. So I mean, if we had a year to do it, I don't even think it would take a year really. With the team we have, if we really, you know, put our nose to the grind and set our minds to it, we could probably get it done the span of a few months just because of how awesome Unreal is with the built-in resources from Epic, and then
Have you
with
guys
the
worked
programming aspect
in
as well.
Unreal at all? Like, have you done
Uh,
that as a part of your
Uh,
course, or I mean,
Unreal
classes?
at Butler, no, it was mainly Unity. Um, right now, John is having us work through some Unreal stuff, but at Butler, it was just all Unity. It wasn't really much with that, and just the little bit I've actually worked with it, I honestly prefer Unreal over Unity. It it's
yeah,
so much
so
smoother.
I started out with Unity because I started at Butler. I went through, got my first associates, which was just a general studies liberal arts degree, but I took a couple of game design classes as electives. And then the plan was to go to a 4-year university and get my bachelor's in game design, uh, but it was kind of cost prohibitive. And I just had an itch to just jump in and get into the industry. Um,
Cool.
so I went, after getting my original associates, I went to Wichita State University for about a year. And at Wichita State, they actually had us using Unreal as the gameplay engine. And then for modeling, they had us using Autodesk Maya and Blender rather than 3ds Max like we used at Butler.
Hmm.
Um, so I got, about a year's worth of experience with Unreal after that, and I just kept on working in Unreal. For our capstone class, we actually all individually had to have our own projects as well as the group project, and
Hmm.
so I ended up making a game in Unity first, and then I switched it over and remade it in Unreal, and it was kind of like an endless runner temple run type game where you're flying a little spaceship, dodging trees and rocks in a little forest canyon. Um, so out of everybody on the team, I have the most Unreal experience, but most of that came from self-taught,
Hmm.
Skillshare, YouTube, reading through Unreal documentation, and Epic's own online learning resources for Unreal, um, rather than stuff that I actually learned in school.
Yeah. And I think what it comes down to, like, what the best thing for it's the best thing for your game, and like whatever you're most effective in, you know, or if it's a long term thing, like a venture that, um, obviously it's going to be worth long if you're going to stick with it long term. But
Very much. Oh yeah.
Yeah, if I was running like a game development school, I would make people use both. Um,
Yeah.
like
Just
there's
show
there's
the
I definitely.
I love Unity, but I also love Unreal. there's different
Yeah,
things
there's
about them.
definitely pros and cons to both. There's certain things I like Unity for 2D games. Um, I actually kind of prefer Unity for 2D over Unreal for 2D, um, generally speaking. But um, they both have their pros and cons. As far as Blondie Wales Games, all of our projects for the foreseeable future will be Unreal, and that mostly comes down to the royalties agreement, actually, and the fact that you can't publish to consoles with Unity unless you have Unity Pro. Whereas with Unreal, you can just go ahead.
you just go ahead
And so,
and then that
yeah,
risk, you're not taking that risk since they just with the percentage. So I like
yeah.
the way I was
yeah,
set up.
yeah. Because with Unity, I think the revenue cut is after your first $100,000, they take a 10% cut. Whereas with Unreal, it's after your first million, they take a 5% cut. And
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're not expecting to make $1 million off our first or second or third game, but you know, it's one of those. We might as well get used to it and get acquainted with the engine
Just make an
now.
industry-breaking game. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Should take
Like
like
a
a
shouldn't
week.
be too hard.
Should have it. Should be ready by Monday, right, guys? Just like throw it
Yeah,
together.
yeah. We'll throw it together. It'll be
Some just
fine.
make up a new genre and it'll be super popular.
I mean, as long as it comes out, moderately bug-free and functioning, we're already a step ahead of a lot of AAA games these days.
Yeah, just
Yeah, we're not. We're
just
not
fix it
gonna
in
pull
the 5-month update.
we ain't gonna pull
Yeah.
out Fallout 76 or No Man's Sky here. We're gonna make sure it's actually crisp, actually playable.
That's a good transition
man.
into something I wanted to talk about today. So, what do you guys think about this idea of games being evergreen content? So, meaning that it can always be updated and always support people playing it long term. This is something Skyrim basically is, or like Minecraft. Um, you know, what the original Minecraft came out like 2009 or something, 2010,
Actually came out in
Something like
2008.
that. Yeah.
2008. Yeah,
Yeah, I think the alpha came out in 2008.
yeah,
I think
Yeah.
it depends on the game. Some games should just be fire and forget. You know, obviously do some updates to them for
Bug fix
programming,
it.
fixing bug fixes and maybe some quality of life updates here and there. But some games should be just fire and forget. Like, we don't need every game ever to expect us to grind through some battle pass and make it, a 500-hour game. Not every game needs to be that. Some games
Yeah.
are perfectly fine to just be, you know, a 10-hour game or a 20-hour game, and then it's done. And you might come back to it later and be like, yeah, that was really fun. I'll go play through that again. Um, you look at some of the indie games that have come out in the last decade. One in particular that really jumps out to me is Journey. Uh, the whole game only takes like 2.5 hours, and it's still this really awesome, really artistic and poetic and impactful game. Even though there's no dialogue, there's no story that's really presented through text boxes or voiceovers or anything. It's all atmospheric and environmental. Just trying to get to the top of that mountain. But it's one of those games that there's the 2.5 hours of the game, and that's kind of it. Um, but it's still fun to come back to every now and then. Or you take you know, even older than that, you go back to the Super Nintendo era with games like Contra or Mega Man X. Uh, you know, they were relatively short games. They had, you know, some secret unlockables and they had a lot of replay value, but the games themselves weren't super long. And I think that's something that, you know, definitely needs to make a comeback. We should focus on replayability rather than grind in a lot of games. Though there are some games that they really benefit from that evergreen status. I mean, you look at games like RuneScape, old school RuneScape, still fairly popular. There's still a pretty active player base on there, and you know they're making updates to old school RuneScape as well as uh, mainline RuneScape or RuneScape 3. You know, MMOs definitely benefit from the evergreen kind of game design philosophy, but I really don't feel like, you know, a first-person shooter that's a linear first-person shooter really needs to be this evergreen, constantly, you know, updated with a new battle pass every 3 months kind of thing. I feel like it's just, you know, yeah, drop a couple of map packs. Like, let's go back to the 2009, 2008 kind of gameplay or game design philosophy of, you know, we'll put out the game will be cool, we'll do a couple of bug fixes, we might drop 3 or 4 map packs with 3 or 4 maps each, charge, you know, $10 for it, and be done with it. We'll move on to the next one.
Or when you had to go to GameStop to get the DLC on disc.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was a different
Those were
time.
the days.
Someone in the
now is
chat,
pretty obsolete.
Ebonithic, says, you guys are all in black and white, by the way. And just so you know, this is in the past. We're actually in the past. That's why it's black and white. Well, this is a flashback.
Yeah. This is the flashback scene. We're reminiscing about 2008.
Yeah, exactly. Or the Halo 2 map pack and the Oblivion DLC.
Yeah.
I think I still have my Halo 2 map pack disc somewhere around here. I know I still have my Shivering Isles and Knights of the Nine
Shivering
disc.
Isles, that's what I was trying. I couldn't think of the name.
Well, like one thing that I think I kept Black Ops 2 because they had bots. You can do split screen. So even if the servers have been off forever, you know, you can still save that.
Oh, they're still on, but it's full of hackers.
Yeah, it's just hackers, and you just get headshot.
That's all it is. And that's what a lot of games are nowadays. It's just hackers or people not knowing. I mean, that's why I kind of quit Apex for a while. It's just filled with hackers and everything like that. Games need to be able to. Good games need to be able to stand up to that kind of stuff, but still be able to be playable. They just.
We'll see that there's an example right there of Call of Duty. They, for a while, they were annualizing their releases, which I know there's different studios doing the different games. But what if Black Ops this whole time had been one game and they were updating one game instead of doing Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4? And then
They have a lot of great maps, you know?
You know, I think one of the bigger problems that I see, especially with first-person shooters, you know, games that used to be kind of fire and forget and annualized, turning them into more evergreen games as a service type platforms, you come into an issue where it's like, okay, well, they're going to support this game with new content for 10 years. They're not going to put out a new game. Well, what if I don't like this game? Now I've got to wait 10 years to get a different one? Like, I mean, if you were a fan of... Yeah, Skyrim's a great example. Here we are 12 years after Skyrim came out, nearly, and we're still 4 or 5 years away from Elder Scrolls 6. Fallout 4 came out in 2015, and, you know, not counting Fallout 76, because it's the Kids Bop theme park version of Fallout. We're not going to see another single-player Fallout game until 2029, 2030, so it'll be 15 years in between games. It's like, what if I just want more Fallout, you know? I think, and that speaks to a bigger issue in the games industry of really bloated development times and really bloated budgets, where we don't need every game ever to be a $300 million project that's going to take 8 years before it comes out. Uh, there was an article not too long ago. I think it was a Kotaku article. Um, I forget who said it, but they said that the average AAA game now takes 6 to 8 years of development time to
Yeah.
come out.
Matt
And I'm
Booty,
like,
the Xbox Game Studio
yeah, Xbox
head.
has that booty, yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think that's
8 years?
necessary. I feel like this is where indie game studios are really going to thrive. I feel like because once you get some systems set up, and especially if you're making one type of game that you want to make, you're going to set yourself up to have a much
Yeah,
smaller
easy.
window of game development.
Very much so. You know.
Just
Yeah,
iterate on it
especially-
and make it modular.
Especially with all the tools out now, like all the different
Look at
free
Splitgate.
software.
They're already getting ready to release their second game, and they're basically a Halo competitor.
Splitgate,
I
that
don't think it's
I don't think it's as
I
good
don't
as
think it's
Halo,
especially hard to be a Halo. I
but
don't think it's especially hard to be a Halo competitor these days
Well,
as it was
yeah,
back
yeah.
in the day.
yeah, that's true.
You know.
Well,
Well, I have to bring up
Yeah,
Halo in every single episode.
I think when you say it's not that hard, I think a lot of it has to do with the free tools that are available. Like we're not having to build Unreal from scratch or like our own version.
And
Yeah,
that's,
Right,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many built-in plugins to be like, all right, we're making a first-person shooter. You know, it's not like back in the day when Halo Combat Evolved first came out. I think the only real game, there was an Aliens game before that that came out that also used dual analog sticks for its controls. So it was very similar to Halo's controls. But critics hated it. But then when Halo Combat Evolved came out, it was like, oh my god, this is going to revolutionize first-person shooters, and you know, it did. I mean, every game after that copied its control scheme for a decade. But you're not having to go through and revolutionize the games industry. We've kind of gotten into a skid where we're like, all right, yeah, we know kind of what works, what doesn't work with control schemes and with gameplay loops, with gameplay flow and feel. We don't really need to go through and, you know, we're not trying to start from scratch with all that.
we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Everything's been laid out, and everything we need is right there. Like John was explaining, it's right there.
I mean,
think
yeah,
that's
Ford
where-
doesn't completely rebuild the Mustang from the ground up every year. You know, they don't do it with Ford F-150. They're like, all right, yeah, here's what worked in the last one. Here's what we want to improve. Let's iterate on the blueprints from last year's model. And we'll just keep releasing them. You know?
Just
And then I think we brought up, what was it, Minecraft, Skyrim?
yeah.
For Minecraft, I think the difference is the sandbox and also the level to which you can mod it. 'Cause
Yeah.
the Minecraft, once you add those mods and you're building all kinds of automated power systems and all kinds of crazy stuff, you know, one mod pack can feel completely different from another mod pack. And so I think games where you have that level of customizability, and Skyrim has a lot of mods too, but you
okay,
really just have to really be into it.
yeah. And that's a way that a game can be evergreen is if the modding is accessible and people want to dig around with it. But how do you create a game or a game world that promotes fan involvement and interest to want to mod or to want to keep playing your game forever?
I think
Well,
it starts with a good foundation. You definitely gotta have the foundational roots there, but you know, definitely modular design so that individual aspects can be changed without completely ruining everything. You know, you gotta, especially for like those big fan overhaul mods that you'll find for Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas. Uh, really all the Bethesda titles are really modular in design typically. Um, so it's a lot easier to do those big mods and to do those big overhauls without having a whole lot of experience. I mean, yeah, you gotta know how to drive a car to drive a race car, but you're not having to learn how to fly a helicopter. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
it's
It's not rocket science.
yeah,
it is right. Marky in the chat says Cursed Halo is the voice of a generation. Um,
for sure.
and then he said, I would say, yeah, allow and help modding, but older Bungie Halo games allowed for non technical people to mod as well via the custom games in Forge and Theater. Oh, yeah. So, like in game, like editors like Forge, or like map builders like Far Cry has a really good map builder.
Well, a game
Yeah,
that really comes to mind is Binding of Isaac. I mean,
mhm.
that game's been out for God knows how long, and it's gotten several DLCs, but he's actually stopped making more DLCs. He stopped updating it, but people still like to play it because, like John was saying, its foundation is solid, but the gameplay loop, you never it's never the same game. It's always replayable. There's always something. Everybody's always trying to one up everybody. Everybody's trying to. It's not just the modding community. There's the speedrunning community. How fast can I make this? How can I do all this? Is like, if I remember right, the Binding of Isaac also has a pretty good system to where they can mod stuff. I mean, Minecraft had an update where even Minecraft had an update where it was mostly trying to update how mods could be added. It's the accessibility you also give to the players
Yeah,
is what
it's become a
they
bit
take
of a
from it.
platform. There's actually studios that make money off of Minecraft mods now, kind of like Roblox, and I guess now Fortnite is doing that. What's cool about
Yeah,
Fortnite is they actually it's like Unreal tools.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a modified version of Unreal 5 that they have for the mod tools, and they've got this new scripting language for it. I forget what it's called.
oh really?
Um, yeah,
I haven't
but
looked into it too much.
it's really cool what you can do. I mean, it's basically Diet Unreal 5.
Hmm.
Uh, you're not doing the whole shebang, but I mean, you're getting a good taste of what it's like to work in Unreal 5 uh, with those developer tools there. But I think a lot of that, beyond creating good foundation and creating games that have a lot of um, have a lot of player controlled variables and stuff like that. I think one of the biggest things to keep a game relevant, especially with the modding scene, is supporting your community in their modding. Because I mean, like, look at Valve. They have made $1 billion or something now off of the Counter Strike franchise, and Counter Strike started out as a mod to Half Life One. Uh, and that's still, I think it just about every day, CS:GO is still like the number one game played on Steam, and it's
hmm
because they ended up releasing um, Source Engine, and Gary's mod came out and allowed for a lot of creativity in game design as well as animation and stuff. So being willing to, kind of support your community in their own artistic endeavors and being like, hey, we're flattered that you like our game this much. Go for it. You know, here's a
There's
terms of service agreement for it. Don't break this and we're good. If you're going to mod our game, uh don't monetize your mod, but you can sure put it on your resume as a, for a game development job. Awesome. We love it.
there's been people hire.
I've had a number of yeah, I've had a number of different game development recruiters tell me how when they're hiring for level design or environmental art, they've had people send in portfolios where all they've done is build a really fun, really cool level in Halo Forge or in the Far Cry level editor, and they've used that as the basis of their level design. Because, I mean, when it really comes down to it, any company can teach you any bit of software, but if you are knowledgeable and you have a talent for the fundamentals of it, that's what matters. You know, there's a billion and five tutorials for any kind of software you want to find out there, but
You know.
having that, having that instinct, that's what people care about.
Well, I mean, there's been people who hired on to other companies like Mojang and stuff like that from just modding. I mean, even
Yeah.
then, who was it? I want to say Feed the Beast. There was one guy who did a mod pack for that and found a way to get everything put together and was hired by Mojang because he was able to do all this coding. He was able to do all these like really, and it felt like Minecraft kind of thing. And I communities who do that are who are able to bring people in from their mods and make it accessible, man, able to hire people from their community from what they've done in it, I think is excellent.
I just
It
realized my
shows that you
mic was
do
muted.
care about it.
Um,
It shows that you actually care about the community and stuff like that. It,
yeah, Bethesda is kind of famous for this because they have Creation Engine and they've hired modders who have made stuff in the Creation Engine.
yeah.
But Marky in the chat, he said he has a question. He says, "How do you as devs handle copyright infringement in your mods? Don't care? Can it reflect on you and get you in trouble, etc.? Case in point, Cursed Halo has a ton of Minecraft assets and stuff where people put, I don't know, Halo assets in their Gmod map or whatever."
Well,
It's one of those things. At least for our company policy, um, for the games we release, feel free to mod them all you want, as long as you don't monetize them, you don't, uh, you know, the mods don't affect multiplayer, they don't give you an overt edge or really any kind of edge over another player so that the game stays balanced and fair. Uh, but we're perfectly happy to have people go through the effort of
Hmm.
modding our games.
Well,
I don't want to make it sound like modding's easy. That takes a lot of hard work. So, I mean, if people want to do it, it's usually because they have a love for the game.
well, I think
But
he's
for us,
saying
it's
more like, let's say you made a game called Jerry the Pumpkin, and someone makes a mod for Fallout where you can play as Jerry the Pumpkin. And in that game, Jerry the Pumpkin is hiring prostitutes and using the slot
If it's
machines.
me, if it's me, I wouldn't care. But
I mean, yeah, for us, for our stance on it, go for it.
Jerry the Pumpkin
Because,
went through some changes.
I mean, if it,
yeah,
if they're
Jared Pumpkin had some hard times.
And
we're
anyone
kind of
listening can use Jerry the Pumpkin if they want.
yeah,
yeah.
we're kind of small team, so like if they're putting our stuff in a mod, it's kind of like free advertising for us right now. And if
To
they
me,
do
I
anything
find it.
too crazy, they're gonna get cracked down on by the larger company. That's
Well,
kind of
I find it. If people are putting like our characters in a mod, I actually find that kind of flattering. I
Yeah.
mean, like something that I put my hard work into, like making a Jerry the Pumpkin. If I were to model Jerry the Pumpkin, and he found him in Skyrim or Halo, I would be like, hey, people are using my asset. People are actually finding this
Yeah.
asset fun, and it's a good teaching tool for me to know of. That's what we should be going for. That's the kind of model. That's the kind of look we should be going for. It's memorable. It's people love it. So I don't see any problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, as
and then
long as people aren't monetizing it and they aren't trying to claim that it's official and they're explicitly clear that it's a fan thing, go for it. Whenever it's free advertising,
Mm.
it's keeping us, in the cultural zeitgeist. Like, all right, sweet. And that can actually be a good gauge of, you know, cultural popularity or, a form of market research. Say you released Jerry the Pumpkin 10 years ago, but somebody, you know, brings it up, uprises it, retextures it, topologizes it, and throws it into Elder Scrolls 6. Like, All right, cool. Well, now, this mod has 15,000 downloads and 11,000 hearts on it, and we thought Jerry the Pumpkin was just going to be a one-off kind of deal. Well, okay, there's still some public interest in it. We might have to, look into that and consider making a project.
Mhm.
Like, let's
Harry the
throw something
Pumpkin.
Yeah,
together.
then you come out with Jerry the Jack-o'-lantern, and they're like, whoa, they made a game from the guy from Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like they've been saying with Master Chief.
Oh
yeah.
man.
The guy from Fortnite, is that what they said?
Yeah, when Halo
Is that
Infinite
guy
came
from
out,
Fortnite?
he's the guy from Fortnite.
Oh man, that's funny.
Ah, crud. But yeah, I find it flattering more than anything. If people use your assets and they like it, it shows their interest. Like John was saying, there's interest in it. We know that we can do more with it. It wasn't just that one-off thing, that one idea that somebody had. Now we can run with it more. That shows that it shows
There's
that
interest and there's
yeah, thank you.
momentum, and you're
And
like
I think things like memes have kind of changed some of that attitude. Like
Oh, very much so.
we're headed towards a world where you can just generate images of whatever character you want with AI. You want another season of the show you like, At least we're a ways from that, but
Yeah.
I
Jerry the
think
Pumpkin
memes-
Extended
AI
Universe.
Seinfeld.
Yeah, I think memes have opened the door to, especially parody or humor or whatever, or like you said, it's your community's artistic expression, and I think everyone realizes, oh, this is a meme. It's not an official thing from this corporation,
Yeah.
obviously.
I mean, you look at some of the success stories in the past with that. To bring it back to Halo, Red versus Blue. They went through and started making Red versus Blue. They didn't have Bungie's approval or Microsoft's approval to start doing Red versus Blue. They just started doing it, and then Bungie was like, "Hey, this is really cool. Keep doing it. You have our blessing. We think it's hilarious because it's obviously parody. It's, yeah, they're using the game to make machinima. Yeah, they're using the assets and stuff to eventually do their own 3D animations, starting from like season 7 onwards. They do a lot of 3D animation stuff with the assets or rebuilds of those assets.
They got to be in Halo 3 too.
Yeah, they've been in Halo 3, Halo 4, 5, and Infinite.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
And not only that, they actually used the Red versus Blue cast to make a special episode to advertise for the Heroic Map Pack trailer
Mm-hmm.
for Halo 3. The first map
Yeah.
pack for Halo 3 was a Red versus Blue trailer, and it was
That's
awesome.
cool.
And
The big empty room.
that got me to buy it. Yeah.
That's cool.
I didn't have internet when that came out, and I remember my friend came to school and he's like, "Dude, there's a new map pack for Halo 3 with a big open room when you can make whatever you want." And yeah, back then the Forge mode, you couldn't intersect pieces. So there was a weird glitch where you could make things phase through each other.
Yeah, you had to set up the spawn times so that it would pop in individually, and then they would clip into each other. I made a number of really big spaceship builds with shipping crates in Halo 3, doing that trick for sure. You also couldn't make the objects float on their own. You had to use a glitch to make them stay floating in air. So you'd have to build a scaffolding out of boxes or out of
I
shipping
used
crates
weapon
themselves and
holders.
prop everything up. Weapon holders, that was another big one. Yeah, you had to get creative with Halo 3 Forge. You didn't have all the enhanced level editor stuff. That didn't start coming until Halo Reach.
You had to be scrappy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's my level design origin story.
I
Like being
remember the
scrappy.
anime
Mine-
arc Reach Forge.
Halo 3's Forge.
mine was probably Far Cry Instincts,
Mm. Yeah, I messed around with Far Cry 2 a lot.
Far Cry Evolution.
Far Cry Evolution was I think that was one of my favorite Far Cry. Far Cry Primal, that was another really good one.
I haven't played either of those. I played
Far Cry
Far Cry
2.
2 and 3.
Yeah, Far Cry 2, the best community map on that was that one plane that was made of pallets. There was this really popular one where you're all on a plane, this big like passenger, jetliner, and it's made out of pallets and stuff, so it's all like destructible. So you'd shoot the floor out from under somebody, and they'd fall to their death into the ocean and splat down in the water. And with the fire propagation system in that, you could shoot one of the ammo crates and it'd burn off half the plane. And I mean, the plane would still just be floating there, obviously, because it's all just set to be floating. But then it would like slowly respawn, but it'd keep people from going in that area for a minute, 2 minutes, whatever. And so that was really cool.
Have you guys heard of Lunar Magic?
Lunar Magic.
That was my first level editing experience. Was way back. It was this program you could edit Super Mario World levels, and then it would change the ROM. So it was like a ROM hack. And so I was playing that on like a laptop way back in the day. Before that, it was like on paper. Like even like when I was a kid, it was just like stacks of Mario levels.
Any kind of level editing thing I did was more of the RPG Maker and stuff like that. I never really did any of the Forge or Halo stuff. I was more interested in the already available ready tools and stuff like that.
Did you guys ever play the game Postal? Or Postal 2?
Oh yeah.
So what's funny is
Never played Postal 1.
I've never played Postal 1 either. But way before I ever thought I would like work on games and stuff, I actually used to like mess around with Postal 2's editor, and it was actually Unreal Engine, probably 2 or 3. But I just like messed with like all the textures and stuff. You could like export them, and I'd open them up in Microsoft Paint.
Hey, gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. But yeah, I actually vaguely remember the Lunar, whatever it was, because I remember you showing me Mario levels back in the day.
Well, at least you moved on to Photoshop and stuff. I'm still stuck in Paint.
I kind of miss.
So I get away with it.
I kind of miss Paint, the old Windows 95.
Well, I'll be
honest, I still use Paint 3D.
Yeah. Remember that one thing you made a graphic for me and you misspelled a word and like I didn't catch it until like a year later, and you didn't have the files anymore, and so like I just zoomed in and like went pixel by pixel, swapped 2 letters.
Which one was that?
It's one of those creepy AI generated images.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, that hurts.
You're like,
yeah, we made an AI thing before everyone else was doing AI.
Yeah, and then still not out.
Oh, everything is just AI generated anymore. There's a lot of tools out there for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the rules
Marvel's
around it are
hot
weird.
water for that.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about that? I felt like I don't think it's completely AI. I think they made some stuff and then used AI to like make it do its thing.
Well, what were they trying to do? If I remember, they were trying to bring back Stan Lee for a few movies to do that, and people were not happy with that. They were just saying, he had his days, he had his stuff, just let the man rest in peace.
Well,
because with that, good.
I was just gonna say specifically what I think John was talking about was they have like a new show that came out where the intro is AI.
Oh, I haven't seen
Yeah,
that.
the intro for the new show, Secret Wars, is AI generated, and they've come out and said that they made an official statement in response to the outcry about it. They said that the AI usage in the intro didn't replace any people, but that um, it was merely a collaborative tool. It was an enhancement kind of thing. Um,
Hmm.
and I mean, I'm not sure how accurate that statement really is, because I mean, when you're debuting a big new show and you've got a huge controversy around it, you'll say just about anything to get out of the problem.
Well, I
So, I
think
mean,
I
who
think that's
knows?
true though, because I was curious, so I watched it. To me, it looks like there's a pre-existing artwork that they did, and then they used AI to like enhance it, um, to
Yeah,
like
I
get
haven't
the
gotten
that
around to
weird
watching the show
effect.
yet,
Um,
but you know, I I think AI can be a really cool tool uh, for graphic design, for game design. It just can't be your main tool. It
Yeah.
can clean up a few things, it can help out with a few things, but
Mm.
once you start relying on it as your primary, you know, go-to tool, that's when you start running into issues with, plagiarism, copyright infringement, because AI as we have it is not real AI. It's a learning algorithm, and the vast majority of it is, taking direct samples of things and mashing them together. And I know there's always the argument of, well, isn't that what every human artist is just an amalgamation of all their inspirations. Every song ever written is just the same, 12, 13, depending on who you ask, notes, all, arranged differently. And it's like, all right, well, that's like saying reading the dictionary means you've read every book ever. Like,
There's
you
also
know,
like basic plots. So is it 7 basic plots? But then you can expand it to like 20 or 30.
yeah, there's the seven basic plots of westerns, and uh, then there's another one that's like 12 or 15 basic plots of, you know, your average story. But I mean, it's like, look at how many stories follow the hero's journey arc.
Oh yeah.
Uh, you know, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. It's all
Well,
hero's journey.
it works. I mean,
It works,
yeah.
you know.
Like
Well,
I think that might come down to I think AI is going to be good at just generating kind of nonsense. Just like
well,
yeah,
if it did,
plots, but they're just copying stuff.
it'd be
But
very generic.
it seems like if you look at the Hollywood in the last 5 years or 10 years, or compare it to some of the older movies, you know, it just seems like the and I'm sure there's great movies. I'm not saying like all of them, but some of the big name movies that you would think that they would take the time and put together a proper plot and not write themselves in a corner.
Yeah.
Um, it just seems like I don't know, and I don't know where the disconnect is, but I just
To,
haven't seen a lot of new stuff lately. It's like
to
a lot of
me,
recycled stuff.
very much so. To me, I think the disconnect is that they play off nostalgia, off of anything. They
Mm,
don't. They can't really write very much any new stuff anymore. It's they found a formula and they found their little box and they're scared to go outside the box to try anything new.
mm,
Um, that's where the what was it, the Star Wars and everything was the sequel, not sequel, yeah, the sequel stuff.
yeah, the sequel
You
Is
know,
they
trilogy.
I think
yeah.
I think a lot of that comes down to, um, we've gotten to this point in media, especially, film and game design, where there's not, a ton of independent studios or a ton of independent developers. It's, oh, Tencent just bought 500 new studios today,
mm.
for $1.8 billion total. And it's like, okay, that's cool. They're going to have a hand in everything they make now. You
Mm.
got all these big conglomerate companies that, you get to this certain range of success with these mega companies that I feel like the focus stops being about putting out art or making a statement or, you know, having anything really to say, and it becomes more about increasing their own profits, increasing their own wealth, and
Mm.
it's it's paint by the numbers for the purpose of profit rather than, you know, creating art. It's
Mhm.
it's it's games as a service.
Yeah,
It's movies as a service.
yeah, following trends at the expense of the product, um, cannibalizing your own. You know, once you get so big, you're cannibalizing your own customers. You know, decisions that maximize short-term profits at the expense of your customers. Like, you know,
Yeah.
everyone's got a breaking point of what they'll put up with, and they just keep pushing it because they want to get like that next quarter's profits. You know.
Well, you
Well,
can
me and
always
John
say
were.
sorry.
Well, sorry, doesn't usually cut it. This kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We're sorry.
I remember John was saying stuff that there's going to be another. Well, we were talking about this a while ago, actually. If I remember right, it was it if stuff keeps going like the way it's going, there's just going to be another video game crash. You know, it's
That's fine. We're lean,
there's no,
man. I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
You know.
I definitely foresee another video game crash like we had in 1983.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, look at the leading causes of that was, you know, there was a couple of major companies that were publishing all these titles, but they were trying to get them in, get them as fast as they could, as cheaply made as they could, and
Hmm.
so there was just tons and tons of shovelware with very little quality assurance. So everything was coming out broken, glitchy, and feeling the same. And eventually it just caused the entire industry to collapse. Well, not in Japan. Japan did all right during the video game crash of '83. They just kept on chugging. But
well, it's
at least here in
Japan.
the States and in Europe, it completely killed the industry. And we had to have this huge hard reboot. Um, you know, and it's not even the first time that's happened. We saw a similar thing back in the 40s and 50s with film and television, um, where we got to the point that we're currently at, where a couple of mega companies owned everything and controlled everything, and it took basically the government holding them at gunpoint to pass all these antitrust, anti-monopoly laws to break up all these studios uh, in order to kind of rectify that situation. And then studios that used to be the same studio are now competing against each other. It goes back to the old saying: competition breeds creativity. Uh, Competition breeds uh, innovation. You know, so when everybody is owned by two or three companies, you know, at least if you follow the chain and follow the chain of command there, if everybody's owned by the same two or three companies, then of course they're going to do what is safe, what's expected of them, what works for them,
The
because it makes
ET
them money.
game.
The ET
No,
game, exactly.
we don't talk about the ET game. Oh my gosh.
The Atari version of Pac-Man.
Uh,
I think I
If you've
think you
never,
know I think it actually for the time I think they put a lot of stuff into it. Maybe they put too much stuff into it, but you know it gets a bad rap. I don't know if it deserves as bad of a reputation as it has. Sure, it was buggy and you know
The ET game.
yeah, but I don't believe that it's the worst game ever. Maybe
it's
the
no,
not the
worst.
worst game ever. It's still bad though.
It's still it's yeah it's buggy and stuff, but like the guy tried to he had put different systems in it, like you switch between screens and stuff. There's
It was Mike that
you
made it.
know
That's what he's saying.
it was what?
Mike made it.
No, no, I don't know.
You probably weren't even born.
I
Were
was
you
a
like
no. I
kid, I
3?
mean,
think. No, I didn't
in
make it, but I'm
hindsight,
just saying, like, you know, and maybe it was a bad commercial, you know, and like failure, and you know, it got that reputation of being the worst ever game.
Well, I think it was one of those things where they tried to make something a game that didn't really need to be a game, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that's for
ET is
sure.
a
Yeah,
great ET is a great movie on its own. It didn't need the game. It didn't need
yeah.
any of that.
I think
That's
I think
how-
it needed the game.
That's how they did March back then. And like one guy wrote the code, and every movie had a crappy game that came with
Yeah.
Have you
Hell,
guys
it. Probably still do.
played the
even
Incredibles movie game?
no.
That was a good movie game.
Was it?
I'll
It was
tell you
like
what,
each level was like a different game. It was pretty fun actually.
I'll tell you what, the best movie tie-in games, and this is before your time, Dakota, but the best movie tie-in games were the Lord of the Rings games on
Dude,
PlayStation 2.
I was literally thinking that.
Return of the King, awesome, legendary game still to this
Legendary.
day.
And it was co-op.
The battle, yeah, the Battle for Middle Earth, 1 and 2, fantastic. Some of the James Bond games that came out, not just GoldenEye, but I'm talking like Agent Under Fire and Nightfire.
Mm-hmm.
Those games were fantastic. The Spider-Man 2 game.
Oh,
there's
dude. Spider-Man 1 and 2 were
Yeah,
pretty
there's-
good. Spider-Man
Yeah,
2 was
was-
legendary though.
Was that one on PlayStation 1 or 2?
Yeah, that was on
it was
PlayStation
on,
2.
Yeah,
PlayStation
that was the
2,
one where you could like swing
PlayStation 2,
from the
GameCube.
from the buildings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some really good movie adaptation games. I've always liked the Lego games. Those are actually
Did the
surprisingly
games
really
come
good
before the
adaptations.
movie though?
No, they came after the movie. Talking like Lego Harry Potter, Lego,
Oh, I see what you're
Oh,
saying.
Lego
okay.
Star Wars, stuff like that.
You're talking about the Lego
Those
movie.
are actually pretty decently good games that are, kind of portray the movies.
Mhm.
It's different enough to where it's not exactly the same, but it's very much portrayed in a good light. I remember staying up playing the Lego Harry Potter games because I'm a big Potterhead. I love those games.
You're a piehead?
He said Potter. He said Potterhead.
I know.
Potter.
Those are the jokes back then, even when I was like 6.
Yeah.
So, oh, you're a pothead. You like Harry
He's
Potter.
leading the fence on that one.
If you knew me on a personal level, I talk about Harry Potter all the time. Any chance I get, it's Harry Potter.
I think the benefit that the Lego games typically have, they're not so much movie tie-ins as they are movie adaptations, but they do enough different with it. They bring their own comedy to it. They bring their own storytelling devices to it. That I think there's a certain level of charm, so they have that story, sure. They have that aesthetic, sure. But they're doing it Lego style. They're kind of
Yeah.
making it their own thing, almost like the cover version of a song. And yeah, there's certainly bad covers, and there's certainly bad Lego games. Lego Indiana Jones too. Looking at you. Um, oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Well,
But I mean, like,
here's a question.
I have
What's...
a ton of respect for them.
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, if you could make a movie tie-in game, what movie would it be?
If I, oh, that's a good one.
Any movie like
Any movie.
Salvador Dali made a movie. He made a short film. Who'd be that one?
If I could, I'd do a Treasure Planet movie, game adaptation.
Oh, that would be a good one.
I mean, technically, you kind of could. Treasure Island is in the public domain, and Treasure Planet's just Treasure Island in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
Treasure
I've
Moon.
always thought, like, if they're gonna make some, these live action movies that they do nowadays, there's Treasure Planet. That was a great movie. You could easily make that an adaptation. Make several. It's the freaking Pirates of the Caribbean in space. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
They
you can actually
have,
do full-size planets now. It's not too hard.
Yeah.
I think if I was going to make a movie adaptation, or, to expand it a little bit, a game that's set in a movie franchise, I'd really like to make like a Blade Runner game in like a similar vein to like Predator Concrete Jungle, where like it's not technically an adaptation of any one comic or movie or anything, but it's still set within that universe. It's set
Mm-hmm.
within that franchise, and you have a lot of callbacks to the movies and to the comics through, unlockables and characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I'd probably want to do like a Blade Runner uh, version of like Predator Concrete Jungle. I think that'd be phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
That'd be
The
cool.
cell could be cool. The cell. So you have like
Yeah.
different horror rooms, but it's variety. It's not just like one monster in a basement or something.
Yeah.
Oh, have you
Blade
Oh
Runner.
yeah.
have you
Blade
guys
Runner would
seen
be
the
cool, too.
platform? I think that's what it's called. The one where it's like a prison where it's like the platform just goes down and the
Oh,
food
yeah.
starts
Is that
at
a
the
movie?
top. Yeah. It's like at the top of the prison, it's full of food, and then it keeps going down, and the people at the bottom don't get any food, so they like kill
Oh
each other and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. 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 They and then like I forget what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
And you could
And
do
then
a
like
party battle royale game of that.
Yeah, that's a twist on Battle Royale.
Or I don't know
Actually,
why I'm thinking of this, but the Count of Monte Cristo. I don't know why. I think that would be a weird, good game somehow.
when I was in my early years of college, I lived in this real crappy little apartment, and we didn't have laundry machines in the apartment. We had some in the building, but they were like $6 per load. But there was this laundromat like 2 blocks away, and we would go down there and take all our laundry and load up like 6 machines because we'd always forget to do our laundry until it'd been like a month and we were down to our last pair of socks. Uh, but this they had a couple of pinball machines in there, and the Count of Monte Cristo pinball machine that they had was so cool. And I had never seen Count of Monte Cristo until I had played on that pinball machine for like 8 hours. And I was like, I've been looking at this all day. I'm gonna go watch this movie tonight. Finally got around to it, and yeah, it's crazy the kind of jumps you can make from different forms of media.
Hmm.
oh definitely
Marky in the chat says Monte Cristo has an anime.
it
That's
does.
interesting.
Honestly, that surprised me. There's an anime adaptation for everything.
Yeah, and he also says to make a battle royale out of the movie Battle Royale,
I
and
mean,
that's
yeah,
it's
I think
the
it'd be really cool
Asian
to make a
version of Hunger
battle
Games.
royale. Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to make a battle royale out of the 2012 Judge Dredd movie, like
Huh.
uh,
I haven't seen it.
in that really big skyscraper apartment building.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that'd be really awesome, uh, doing that, because I mean, that's kind of what the end of that movie is. It's just the whole thing goes nuts, and there's just riots going on everywhere, all in
Yeah.
this one big mega apartment skyscraper. Uh,
That'd be cool.
if you haven't watched the 2012 Judge Dredd movie Dredd with Carl Urban, it
I love
is
Carl Urban, but I have not seen that movie, and I don't know
Yeah,
why.
yeah, and you could make
it's
like
a heavily slept on movie, but it's phenomenal.
could make it like destructible, so you could like go between floors and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certain
I mean,
areas is like
you wouldn't even have to do like full destruction. Like, I mean, you could do like a Rainbow Six kind of destruction to it,
Yeah,
where you're just kind of going through walls, going through doors, going through some
because the
floors.
point is pathways, not to like eliminate the entire center of the building where you can't get across the map.
Yeah.
The structural integrity.
Yeah,
You know, craziest thing, they made a board game out of that Tim Curry movie Clue.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Uh,
Crazy, right?
have you guys played
Jumanji.
Talisman?
talisman.
No.
It's an old board
Yes, I
game.
have.
It's been like revised a couple times. It's basically a battle royale, also sort of RPG-ish. So it has like an outer ring, and this has like villages and forests and towns, and you can have random encounters. And while you're in the outer ring, you level up your character, and then to get into the middle ring, you have to get a boat or cross the bridge that has like a guardian who you have to fight. You have to be strong enough to fight him. and then there's a third ring, but once you're in there, that's like end game pretty much.
Yeah, you're basically going you're going around the board like Monopoly,
Mm-hmm.
but you have some basic RPG staffs, and like you draw monsters to fight from a deck, and so it's just enough to like make it. It's one that I play like with when you have people that are not into games, you know, or like not.
Yeah.
It's easy to pick it up, but it's also interesting enough to like, and it can
Keep
take
their
a long
attention.
time. So it's good to like it's a good game to like just get a bunch of people and hang out, and you don't have
Yeah.
to think too hard about it.
I feel
Kind
like
of a party game.
yeah, I feel like that game could translate to other mediums as well. Like
Yeah.
all the characters are different enough. You could you could write a story around it, or even as
Yeah,
it is, you could. I feel like you could adapt that into some kind of cool multiplayer experience.
Tell you what,
Well, no.
tell you what game I want to make. I
What's
want to
that?
make a 3D open world MMO Oregon Trail.
There we go.
Yeah.
So
Just
Red
riding
Dead
a
or
A lot of people with that game. I to this day I still have not beaten Oregon Trail.
Never beat Oregon Trail. You probably drown in the Kansas River, don't you?
No, I die of what? Not polio. What's it called?
Dysentery.
Dysentery. Yeah, I die of dysentery all the time.
They made a board game out of it. It's like a card game.
There's a
I think the
Apple
farthest
Arcade
I
made a
got was
new one.
Chimney Rock.
Could
That-
be interesting. Survival, frontier survival, open
Yeah.
world. You go out and find a place.
Like Red
and-
Dead, but you're on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
could make it like realistic, like make the water, like make water spawn in realistic places. So like if you pick a bad place, maybe you're not gonna have a good well, or you're gonna have floods, or you know.
The problem with making that game, though, is within a week you would have role players pretending to be the Donner Party.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
In the California
Well, you don't have to
mountains.
let them do that. Like, you know,
I mean,
like
I mean,
Skyrim has human
that's part of
flesh
the
in it,
fun.
but you don't have to eat it. You know. Just because
it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, like one of my characters did it. Just figure out like, whoa, what? You can actually eat it? That's weird.
Yeah. No, there's some things that just should not be allowed in games. It just
You can
kind
just
of goes
leave
too
it out,
far.
right? So it's about your audience and
Yeah.
I don't know. I
target
feel like
audience
role
and-
playing as the Donner Party is something that, as a game developer, I would probably allow just because it's hilarious.
yeah.
You
Well,
know?
there's the historical aspect of it,
Yeah.
and I think
It's like,
some of
oh,
these
somebody
survival
went out
games,
right away.
you know, kids don't get to run free anymore, so they need a new medium to take risks in. And so some of the like it's something simple as Minecraft, right? Or the risks are low. You know, the consequences are low, right? Because you're just wasting time, but you still have to plan for okay, I'm going to go mine or whatever. Or in this game, you'd have to get your supplies and everything, and
The
depending how
children
realistic
yearn
you
for
wanna
the
go.
mines, Marky says.
Yeah,
Yeah, gone
So-
are the days of you're getting kicked out of the house, don't come home until the streetlights come on, trying
yeah.
to watch my stories, you know?
Yeah. Now it's trying to get the kids outside is the issue.
No, I mean, there's definitely something to be said about that, actually. Giving kids and giving people in general, you know, that kind of cathartic escape to experiment and play around in, you know, in a game where the stakes are low. All you've lost is a little bit of time, unless you're playing EVE Online, and then you've somehow lost a $48,000 ship.
Yeah, those are always hilarious. I think there was a recent one. I don't remember the details, but yeah, it's like, but I think it's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's hilarious. It's like $48,000 for a ship in EVE Online. Dude, that's more than my mortgage. What are you doing?
Well, and if you get
Right.
into it that far, you know what you're getting into. You know about the stories where
I mean,
someone, others,
yeah.
things like that.
But it's,
definitely.
you know, there's definitely something to be said about, you know, giving, you know, not just kids, but people in general, that kind of, you know, free space to explore and go around and try new things and just live life in a way that the stakes are low. All they're gonna lose is a little bit of time. You know,
Yeah,
uh, it's important.
very much is. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So we're at an hour and a half. So I think we're gonna start wrapping up. But before we go, is there any last thoughts you guys want to get in, or where can people find you?
And
Well,
did we want to talk about where you guys were headed, like with your
Yeah, like what your plans are with your
yeah
studio.
so
yeah
so our next project is a game called No Salita. It is a post-apocalyptic open world RPG, survival RPG, set in Colorado. And there's going to be a bit of focus on uh, vehicular gameplay. One of the factions, they're a bunch of motorheads, and so their whole thing is this kind of post-apocalyptic race circuit that you go through with their faction storyline. But it's we're trying to kind of differentiate from some of the other post-nuclear apocalyptic games, Fallout, for example,
Yeah,
um, by really doubling down on showing more of the grim realities of what nuclear, war would actually be like. Some of our main inspirations are some of those made-for-TV movies from the 80s, like The Day After, Countdown to Looking Glass, Threads, uh, you know, movies like that, or Cormac McCarthy's The Road, which I know technically wasn't nuclear apocalypse. It was actually like a meteor shower, or at least it's, kind of vague, but it's kind of implied to be a meteor shower in the book.
yeah.
Um, but those kind of just really grim, dark, heavy kind of things, more akin to like Metro, but doing a realistic one that really showcases kind of the collapse of society. So that's kind of the game we're working on right now. It's both a third and first person uh, open world RPG, like I said. Heavy focus on survival elements, um, heavy focus on, faction reputation system, and a lot of storyline choice with impactful player decisions throughout the different storylines. So that's kind of what we're working on right now. We're pretty early on in development, so we don't have a whole lot to show on that front. Um, but we do have a Discord currently set up, and we'll be setting up our company socials over the weekend. And I have sent over the Discord link to Mike. The Discord link I sent you is unlimited uses for 30 days, and I can send a new one when that's up. Uh, we do post fairly frequently on our Discord to post updates and things, and we really want to maintain a lot of open communication with our community as we build our community. That's a big thing
Oh
for
yeah.
us. Um, and then we'll have socials set up at the end of the weekend for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, um, and I'll be sure to send the links of those over to you guys as well once those are set up.
Yeah, so anyone watching this, I'll have those links in the description below. So yeah, the Blondie Wales Games Discord server, and sorry, I had a total brain fart.
No, you're okay.
um, I got confused for Blondie Wales because I'm a level designer for this company Coral Wave, so the wave, uh, Wales
the
Wave.
whale is in the way.
Um,
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah. Anyone else watching? Sperdunky and Friends also has a Discord. We're trying to build a little community of game developers, and oh yeah, um, the game that we posted on Itch last time. On our last stream, we made a game, and it's on Itch. It's called Cosmic Meatballa, and it's a Flappy Bird clone that we made on stream.
I love that.
So if you join our Discord, the link is there, but also our last stream, which features a meatball on the cover or on the thumbnail, the link is in that description as well. All right. I'm Sperdunky. This is Sperdunky and Friends. I'm Sperdunky. These are my friends. Peace out.